Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for being here today again. So my name is Veronica Escobar-Mesa, and my Keystone project is titled "A Study of Entrepreneurs in the Greater Boston Area: Understanding the Challenges of Entrepreneurship." So my project had three different parts. So the first part was around understanding the underlying motivations for becoming an entrepreneur. So why do people choose this path, and why do people become entrepreneurs? The second aspect was exploring how entrepreneurs adapt to unexpected challenges. So what those challenges are and how they overcome them. And then the third aspect was about identifying the different challenges that women and minorities face in entrepreneurship and how they can be better supported. So I'll now explain a little bit about each of these three aspects of my project. So first of all, I started by understanding why individuals decide to become entrepreneurs. And so although wealth is a common motive for entrepreneurship, there are other reasons why individuals decide to become entrepreneurs. So some people might want to bring about social or cultural change in their environments, or other people might be seeking a way to disrupt the status quo and gain freedom and independence. And so these individuals are seeing entrepreneurship as a form of emancipation. So emancipation is defined as the act of wanting to be set free from the power of another. And so individuals who see entrepreneurship as an emancipatory process seek three main things. So the first aspect is they want autonomy. So that is breaking free from authority and from perceived constraints. The second aspect is authoring. So they want to have ownership of themselves and define and enhance their entrepreneurial project. And then the third aspect is making declarations and intentions for change. So the second piece of my project was that I studied 22 entrepreneurs from the Boston area. And so I wanted to understand what the main challenges were that what the main challenges these entrepreneurs faced were and how they overcame them. And so these 22 entrepreneurs came or were part of the Mass Challenge Boston Accelerator. So before talking about the entrepreneurs and what I found, I wanted to explain a little bit about what an accelerator is and how it can help entrepreneurs. And so an accelerator is an entrepreneurial program that focuses on helping ventures and startups learn. And so learning can be through mentors, through program directors, through speaking with customers, through guest speakers, through alumni, or through peers. And so accelerators aid and will accelerate venture development because they focus on entrepreneurial learning through intensive consultation. And so this intense consultation prevents premature satisficing on strategic options. And so what that means is really that it prevents entrepreneurs from becoming set on a particular path without really exploring all the options that they have. Um, Accelerators are also time limited, they're cohort based, and entrance is competitive. There are two main ways to categorize accelerators. So the first one is so they can be general, which means that they can accept entrepreneurs from any industry, or they can be specialized, which means that they focus on a specific type of startup. So for example, only tech-based firms. And then accelerators can also be categorized by whether they take equity on the startups or not. And so lastly, ventures who participate in accelerators tend to have superior long-term outcomes in areas such as funding, web traffic, employee growth, and overall growth in the early years compared to those who do not attend these types of programs. So now a little bit more about the 22 entrepreneurs that I studied. So these entrepreneurs, as I mentioned, were part of the Mass Challenge Boston Accelerator program. And so these interviews were conducted during the summer of 2019 by my advisor, Professor Siobhan Omani from the Strategy and Innovation Department at Questrom. And so in these interviews, entrepreneurs were asked about kind of their evolution, the evolution of their startup and what obstacles they had faced along the way and what they had done to overcome them. And so here are some statistics about the 2019 cohort at Mass Challenge in general, which was the cohort that the 22 entrepreneurs that I studied were part of. And so as you can see, the entrepreneurs in this cohort came from a range of different industries. And this cohort was also diverse because so 49% of startups had at least one woman who was a founder, and then 20% of startups had at least one founder of color. So now a little bit more about the 22 entrepreneurs that I studied. So the average age of the startups was 3.14 years. The average age, the 10 of the startups were tech-based, and then 12 were not. 13 of the 13 founders were first-time entrepreneurs, and then 8 were not. And for 15 of the startups, this was the first time for them in an accelerator, and then the remaining seven had already participated in other accelerators previously. So I then transcribed, coded, and analyzed these 22 interviews, and I gathered some overall themes and insights. So the main theme across these interviews was that in the early stages of a venture, one of the most common challenges faced by entrepreneurs is the need to redefine their offering or market strategy. So this is the overall theme that I found. And so then I focused on gathering smaller insights that all feed into this larger theme. And so each of these insights is an example from a different startup that I studied. And so I created a total of 7 of these insights with examples, which are all in my final deliverable, which is an infographic. But in the interest of time, I will only be talking about 2 of these examples. So the first insight is relating to startups changing their path to market. So the insight was that even when innovations address a real unmet need, the paths to market might not be obvious. So the startup was called Lag Time, and so they invented a device that informs mothers and providers about how much breast milk a baby has consumed. And so they originally wanted to develop a class 2 medical device, but they talked to advisors at Mass Challenge who suggested that they should pursue a direct to customer route. And also some investors suggested that they should become a classroom medical device and a standard of care. So based on this feedback, they are now experimenting with their business strategy, and they are going to market their product as a standard of care, and they are now in the process of doing testing. The second insight was related to changing their target market to increase their market size. And so the insight was that adaptations in the target market rather than the product can improve the total addressable market size. And so the startup was Hear Me Now, which initially focused their automatic speech recognition product to target the speech pathologist market. But they quickly realized that this market was not large enough to support a profitable business model. And so they changed their strategy to target a larger market. And so this larger market was patients who were interested in improving their own or their children's communication skills and speech skills. And so this was a shift from B2B to a B2C market, and it helped them enlarge their relevant market size. So here is the infographic that I created as my final deliverable. So in this infographic, I compiled an overview of my research and the overall themes and insights that I found. So it contains, as I mentioned, more of the insights with examples from specific startups. And it also has a more detailed explanation of why people become entrepreneurs and where entrepreneurs come from and what an accelerator is. And I'll know a better overview of what Mass Challenge does and the impact that Mass Challenge has on startups. And so finally, my project is not over yet. Now I'm going to focus on how these challenges are different for underrepresented entrepreneurs. So along with my advisor, Professor Shobhan Omani, and a PhD student at Question, we are now studying an early stage incubator that focuses on underrepresented entrepreneurs. And so this incubator is also located in Boston. And so we will conduct interviews with the founding team and the investors, and also with the first cohort that they will have. And we are aiming to understand what the incubator goals are and how, and then we're going to monitor the progress of this first cohort and how much of an impact they have on this cohort. And so the aim is to investigate how eliminating some of the barriers that underrepresented entrepreneurs face can help them and set them up for success. So thank you so much for listening, and I can now take any questions.